Well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us again. As you see, my name is Florin Longo, but I'm also alone today, so I will do a kind of a solo episode today because Madalina has a hinder and she's not able to join us today. So, unlike what it was said on the intro, we're actually going to talk about personality and how do we use personality in recruitment and kind of living this phase of recruit personality and train skill. This is one of those things that we hear recruiters and managers say a lot, and also you could see this also on company website and say, well, we recruit personality and train skill. So what does it mean, right? And before we kind of are able to look at what does it mean to recruit personality and train skill, I think we kind of have to look what personality is, right, and why it matters. Well, research has shown that personality is a really good indicator for success in a job. And why is that? Well, because we know that in order for us to be successful in a certain job, we need to do a certain number of tasks. And those tasks could be more concrete, like entering data into an Excel file. That's a very concrete. You know exactly what is required from you. You know exactly when that work is done, and it requires a specific skill set, a specific strength, someone to be able to focus on those discrete tasks and to like a very structured work, and sometimes even repetitive work. And on the other spectrum, right, at the end of the spectrum, on the other end of the spectrum, we have more creative tasks. So sometimes we really need to maybe solve a problem creatively. We need to innovate. So how do we do those things, right? And it requires a completely different skill set. So for us to be able to do that work, we're probably going to need to have a different personality and someone that is not, that is not looking for a very structured environment, because you cannot innovate in a very structured environment. You need to be in a flexible environment and you need to be creative. So as you could see, different roles on a team and in a company requires different strengths. And we know that what makes teams great and performance, it's also the sum of how well we can collaborate as individuals. And in order for us to collaborate, if you take any sport where you have a team, where any team sport like football, handball, you have very clear roles on the team. People play in different roles on the team. So personality is actually a really good indicator of how well a person's going to do in a specific role compared to another role. Why? Just because they because we can see how easy, how natural it comes to them to do a specific role over another. So one of the challenges that we usually face when we talk about personality is that some people are skeptical to personality and personality assessment, and they believe that, well, we kind of label people and they don't want to label people. Well, rest assured, you know personality assessments are not to label people. And when someone says something like that, and if you believe that, then it's probably because of two reasons. Number one would be that the person doesn't have enough insight into the tool and how it works and how it helps them. And so when we don't know how the tool will help us, then we tend to be skeptical. We don't want to take a risk. What if it doesn't work? What if they don't bring a nice experience for our candidates? What if they believe this or that about us? And the second reason why many times we don't go with the solution or tool is because we might have had a bad experience with that solution or tool. So someone that has used personality in the past, someone that has been in a position to maybe be labeled or label someone else in the process, then maybe they believe, oh, okay, so that was my experience in the past, now I'm projecting that experience into this new tool. So from my perspective, those two strategies are limiting. I mean, this has been the case with every new tool that we're using. Now we're streaming online, right here. I'm in my home, in front of my computer, and you are watching this from somewhere, maybe in front of a computer, from a phone, somewhere, right, on a screen. And these things are new to us. And imagine and remember actually when these things first came, into the market, how skeptical people were. Think about iPhone, right? How many people thought that we could actually have all of those things and apps in our hands? Think about today's world is actually the equivalent of NFT and blockchain. These are things that people do not know about, and because we don't know about, we're skeptical to it. So the only way for us to actually see the value in using personality and training and recruiting for personality and training skill is actually to be open to the idea and to try it. So if you're interested to try one of our personality assessments, because we have a plethora of them, we have a portfolio of personality assessments that we have created at the John Maxwell team, then just drop me a line on LinkedIn or drop me an email, and I'll be more than happy to share addresses with you. But when we look at personality, and what it is and why it matters, personality, it's also subject of misconceptions and some myth about personality. So one of the biggest myths about personality is that personality is fixed and it never changes, or people say, well, this is just the way I am. And what I mean by that is say, well, this is my personality, it's fixed, there's nothing I can do about that. And that's not true, actually. If you just Google this, if you just want to get some proof, just Google this and look for stories of people whose personality has changed. People that have been through, maybe they had a baby, right? A newborn in their lives. And all of a sudden, everything has changed. Right? What was important for them before was not important anymore. So their value changed, right? Their personality changed. People that have shifted jobs, right? And I have a testimony in my life. My father-in-law, he worked, with really hard physical work in the petrol industry in Romania, and then he shifted his career to become a nurse in a psychiatric hospital. And over a couple of years, his behavior shifted completely from being that Russian strong person to being a more kinder person, and to looking at the patients and looking after patients and taking care of them. Very different people. You look at people that have been through, they survive an accident. It changes their lives. They value things that they didn't value before, because all of a sudden they realize, oh, okay, so life is not given. Doesn't mean I'm gonna be on this earth, for another 40, 50 years, depending on your age, maybe until your 80s. So they started value things differently. Someone that's been through a divorce, and maybe they were part of a relationship with someone where they were dependent or codependent, or they kind of split the responsibilities, and all of a sudden now they are, a solo mom, right, with taking care of 3 kids. So then their personality needs to change, so their role also changes in the family. So we have all of these examples of events in our lives that had shaped the person we are today. So when we look at personality is not just, it's not about your life experience. Well, it's a lot about that. There's not only that. We look at factors in personality which determine our personality, is also our our genes, right, and our hereditary. So depending on the type of family you grew up in, that will shape your personality. So while it's a little bit of genetics in there, we have found that the biggest influence on our personality, it's actually the environment we find ourselves in, and the influences that we have in our life. So if someone changes their environment, chances are they will change. That will change their personalities. And when we look at personality, we see that personality is kind of the sum of your values, your strengths, the things that matter to you, your communication style, the way you do things, the way you like things to be done around you, like the way you want your house to be clean or neat, or maybe just in your chaos, right? All those things make the person you are. And personality, it's the sum of all that. And why is this important when it comes to work? Well, it's important because some personality styles are prone to do better in different roles, and some and other personality styles are more equipped to do better in other roles. So when we look at personality, and this is one of the mistakes I think that many so many recruiters make, is they use personality assessments. If they use it, and we run a survey, and we found out that 75% of recruiters use personality assessments, and actually 35% of them, they use it for every single type of role that they recruit for. So it's something that we know happens, but sometimes the challenge is that we use that personality assessment to qualify or disqualify someone, to qualify someone in a role or disqualify them from the role, and that's wrong. That's not how we should use personality assessments. Personality assessments should be just another tool that a hiring manager, a recruiting manager, can use to make a hiring decision. And what we help hiring managers with, and recruiting teams with, we help them really understand what the team needs. Because it's not only about the role. So, for example, if we take an example of a sales role, right? Sales rep role. Now, when you look for someone in a sales role, then you have to take some factors in account. So first of them is actually what kind of service or product does the person going to sell. So first of all, we know that someone that is in a sales role, unless they have to, just write copy on a website and the product sells itself, they will probably need to speak to people. And if they will speak to people, we will want them to have, people skills, of course, but also we want them to be quite determined. So it doesn't just turn into a nice coffee time or a nice chat, because at the end of the day, we want to move the prospect through the sales process and see if they are a match or not for the solution we have for them. So that requires a little bit of determination. So when we look at hiring a sales rep, we look at someone that is determined, someone that is outgoing and likes to speak to people, influential, and also we're looking at other aspects. So what is the product or service that they're selling? Is this something that people buy in one-time buy, and it's maybe something that they can make a decision to buy, right there on a phone call, or it's something that entails a process. If you sell maybe a SaaS service, a SaaS solution, service as a service, software as a service, then in that case, there might be an implementation time, and there might be a time when you need to sit with with a client, and then you need to maybe go through different decision forums, and then you need to have on board different stakeholders before people are ready to say, okay, now let's look at how do we implement this solution, and then to implement that, and that will take a longer process. So when we look at that profile, we also look that the person has also the patience actually to stay in the game for long enough for this kind of longer sales cycle. So all of these things are actually taken into account when it comes to just a role. But then there is more, because when we take teams through our process and we help them really see who do they need on the team, first thing we do, we need to also see who do they have on the team. So before we're able to look at who do they need on the team, let's look at who do they have on the team. And we do that through our set of assessments. As I mentioned, we have a portfolio of personality assessments that are geared towards communication, towards leadership, towards sales leadership, towards just maybe career, and see what their next step would be. And we also have a benchmark assessment, we call that. So this is where we are able to really set up the parameters of the kind of profile we want on a team. So when we work with the team, with a company, first of all, we assess the current team to see what are the personalities that we have on the team. If they have never done that, or if they've done it, there's been a while since they've done it, maybe people have changed roles, or they have recruit, expand, reorganized, it's a really good idea to do it again. So when we do it, everyone takes one of our assessments, and then they get their own report. But then we also combine those in a group report that we share with a team leader. So the team leader has the complete overview of his or her team, and they see every individual on the team. What do they bring to the table? If they work together with someone else on the team, do these two people actually match their personality, skills? Do they match their personality and their skills in such a way that they actually complete each other, or they actually compete with each other? And so that's the kind of insight we give leaders. And we also look at, are people playing in their strengths areas right now, or do we need, or we could actually reorganize some stuff here, and we will maybe do things in a bit of a different way. So that's the insight we give leaders on their current teams. And then based on where the team is the team expanding, shrinking, reorganizing? What is the vision for the team? Where do you want the team to be in 3 years' time? I know 3 years is long, but at least we want to look 12 to 18 months ahead of time for us to be able to know, like, if you now start recruiting for someone, and it takes a few weeks until you kind of know who do you need on the team, and then you put those measures in place for you to recruit the person, and until they maybe quit their current job, join your company, and then they have an onboarding process, it's easily 8 to 12 months. So planning for anything less than 12 to 18 months is actually foolish. You're not going to do that. And you're also looking to, it's too close focused. You want to focus on the longer term, because it takes effort and time to bring someone on the team, and you definitely don't want to bring the wrong person on the team, or to put the people in the wrong seats on your bus. So what we're doing, we're looking at where the team is, we're looking at who do we have on the team, and then we try to create what we call to be a benchmark. This is a candidate profile, the ideal candidate profile for this specific role. And taking everything into account, we're looking at, are we maybe wanted to have more like, let's say, Florin's, right? So Florin is one of our top producers. We want to have more like Florin's, right? Kind of, we would like to clone Florin if we will be able. So then that Florin might become, the profile that we're looking for, and that becomes the benchmark. Or maybe we say, well, we have enough Florins here, but we need some Johns, or some Madalinas. And so then what we're doing, we're creating a profile for someone to complete Florin rather than have more of Florins. And so that's what we're looking at. We're looking at, where is the team, what is the composition of the team, and based on that, together with very close collaboration with the hiring manager and the HR department, we set it up. This is the benchmark of the candidate we're looking for. And with that in mind, then we assess candidates, and we provide them, the hiring manager and the HR department, a set of questions. And first of all, we provide them with a report, say, hey, this is how this candidate rates, compared to the benchmark. And here are some, good news, and also maybe some of, things to be aware of that you might want to discuss with the person. So when now you go to the interview, here are some questions you can ask to gain clarity on these areas, because there's something there, right? Maybe you need to go a little bit beyond and behind actually what it's kind of, in front of you. Maybe you want to ask some questions. So because interviews are usually, not enough for us to have a full picture of who the candidate is and then what kind of baggage they come with, and sometimes we use that interview as a subjective decision. It's just because we based our decision based on how did we felt during the interview with the person, how well did we connect it, how well they seem to know the company, like to work at the company, kind of how well they match the company culture. But that's many times a subjective decision. This is something that a hiring manager or HR person that is screening candidates would do. And so personality assessments help you to really have an objective, maybe second opinion about a candidate. This is not for us to qualify or disqualify people, This is for us to look at how easy it was going to be for this person to perform in that role, how natural it's going to come for them, or how difficult it's going to be for them to match this role. Because let's face it, it's almost impossible for us to include everything someone needs to know about their role in a job ad or in a job description for them to have a clear picture. And on the other side, I mean, adding to that, actually, it's I've been doing project leading in different companies, and almost every company I talk to, they have a different view of what does it mean to be a project leader. And so then it's almost impossible for someone, right, to know exactly what they're going to do. And sometimes, we're not able to kind of flesh out for someone which is an outsider for our company, what someone in the role we're recruiting for does. So in order for us to mitigate all that, we use and we advise using personality assessment. So if this is something that you're interested in, or maybe you want to look at a different method, you want to see, how this looks in practice and how do we use it, well, I'm more than happy to share that with you. Just drop me a line, either a direct message here on LinkedIn or an email here on LinkedIn, and I'll be more than happy to sit with you and look at what are your needs for your company and how can we help you with that. Because we truly believe that if we're able to recruit personality and train skill, why is that so important? Well, because personality actually tells us about the soft skills of the person. And the challenge that we have is that we believe we can change people. We believe, okay, so this person is really good technical. I know they're probably going to change when they come to on the team. They'll blend into the company culture. We're going to change him or her. Well, good luck with that, because people very rarely change. I mentioned, there are life events that change us, but we cannot bet on someone having a life-changing event or life-changing experience at our company, which make them value something different than they valued before joining the company. So, and even if that's the case, that will take a lot longer. It will be much more painful, and it will require, a lot more resources than just hiring the personality that fits the role that we're recruiting from. So actually, this is what I wanted to share with you today, how to actually really put this recruit personality and train skill into practice, and how does it look for someone that works with us. And if, as I said, if something that this is something that is for you and you'll be interested in actually learning more about how we work with personality and personality assessments and how we help leaders, well, as I said, just drop me a line and I'll be more than happy to share some resources with you. All right, so this is what I want to share with you today. Unfortunately, we only had me, not Madalina today, but I look forward to be back with you next week with probably me and Madalina. All right, so if you have any ideas of topics that you want us to cover, just drop us an email, drop us a message. We'll be more than happy to cover that. All right, okay, thank you for tuning in. Take care. See you next week. Bye-bye.